You can advertise all you want, how great you are, what your stats are, what your ranking is, how many people graduated, the prestigious alumni that you have at your university. But these people, they're unreachable at times. So you want to have people that are like me, that look like me, that went through what I went through to talk about how they achieved what I want to achieve.
Hey, welcome to the Higher Ed Storytelling University podcast, a show where we bring together Marcom leaders from both inside and outside higher ed to give you fresh perspectives on successful organic content creation and strategy in higher education. My name is John Azzoni. I'm the founder at Unveiled, a video production company working specifically with colleges on their storytelling and commercial video content. You can learn more about our work at unveiled.tv. That's UNVEILD. And if creating content that resonates emotionally with your audience is a priority for you, then you need to be subscribed to the Higher Ed Storytellers Digest. It's my weekly newsletter where we cover a lot of ground about content creation and strategy in higher ed. So sign up for that for free at unveiled.tv/newsletter. All right, let's get on with the show. All right, my guest today is Chris Rapozo, good buddy of mine. Chris is a strategic communicator by trade. Chris brings vast experience in brand storytelling, public relations, and multi-channel campaign execution that drives measurable ROI, and he has successfully led national campaigns, digital engagement initiatives, and high-impact events that expand reach and accelerate growth. Chris is also the founder of the Education Marketing Leader, a platform that includes a 100-plus episode higher ed marketing podcast and a professional learning community through its industry book club. He graduated with honors from University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications with a degree in public relations. And outside of his work, Chris is an avid runner who regularly organizes morning run groups at higher ed conferences like NCMPR, Digital Collegium, and AMA. He lives in Georgia with his wife, Kara, and their two children, Joseph and Kate, and their Cavalier King Charles Samson. Samson's a great name for a dog.
He acts like a Samson too sometimes.
Well, welcome to the show, Chris. You're a frequent flyer now. You've reached repeat offender status, being on here the second time now.
Yeah, it's great to be here, John. Thank you very much for having me. The first time I was on the show, I was still working full-time for Hannon Hill, content management provider, but I've since then have switched to Stamats, a comprehensive marketing agency serving higher education institutions, and I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit about that as well on the episode. But yeah, hey, good to be back. Thank you so much. It's good to be on the other side. I'm usually the one who interviews people, 125 plus episodes on the Education Marketing Leader, but now I'm about to get grilled by the man himself. So let's do this.
125. That's great. I commend you because I was on that track. And I feel like you and I started our podcast around the same time. And so we're kind of like, and sometimes I'll search higher ed marketing stuff on YouTube and yours will come up above mine. I'm like, dang it, Chris. So I at some point moved to a bi-weekly, every other week podcast thing, which has been a weight off my shoulders for sure.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I did the same thing. Initially, every week, I had 100 episodes in 100 consecutive weeks. And then I was like, okay, I hit the century mark. Am I going to stop the podcast altogether? But I kind of still, felt the need to continue it because I love the relationships that you build on those shows. And I was like, John's going bi-weekly, so can I. So let's do that.
All right. Good deal. Okay. Well, today we're talking about the journey of international students, challenges and fears and insecurities they face, and at least from Chris's perspective here, how our content can speak to their emotional needs. Let's jump in with a little tangent question here. What's something people would be surprised to know about you? When you were here last, you talked about playing football in Germany, which I'm sure we'll touch on. Is there another random thing about you that you can share?
Sure. Yeah. The football story is always the one I go to first of all, because people can connect with it in the United States and me playing football in Germany. But a lot of people don't know this. As a kid, I was partially raised by nuns in a Catholic boarding school in a town called Herzogenaurach, which is the birthplace of Adolf and Rudolf Dassler. Pop quiz. Do you know who these brothers are and what they founded?
No, when you said Adolf, I thought you were going somewhere else with that.
Yeah, there was a very common name back in the 20s and 30s, but Adolf and Rudolf Dassler were the founders of Adidas and Puma. So those two those two companies were founded in Herzogenaurach, Germany. So Adolf, the abbreviation Adi Dassler, Adolf Dassler,
Ah,
Adidas. So
no,
this is where I was raised.
I thought it stood for all day I dream about soccer.
Yeah,
Is that
no,
not
no, no.
true?
That's not true. It's a combination of his name. So that's a little bit of
Oh
a
man.
surprising background about me. But yeah, the nuns as well, raised in a Catholic boarding school, so being away from home. So I have a little bit of insights there as well when it comes to international students and the homesickness they experience.
Cool. Well, that's one of the best tidbits we've had on this podcast. My youngest daughter, Rylan, she's 8. Her soccer team last year was sponsored by, not really sponsored, but they wore all Adidas stuff. And so I was
Yeah.
like, oh, you know what that stands for? Day I dream about soccer. So I taught her wrong.
Now she knows. Now you know.
Probably the first of many times I will lead my kids astray.
Soon enough, they'll chat GPT your responses.
Yeah. So I just got a new truck, and speaking of ChatGPT, Rylan and I, after her soccer practice last night, we figured out we could like talk to ChatGPT through the car and just like have a back
Oh,
and forth conversation. So that was a lot of fun. We were having it's a female voice, and she was asking Rylan a bunch of trivia questions for 8-year-olds, and so that's fun. I highly recommend it if you have ChatGPT Plus. Hit the little live chat function and just have a chit chat while you're driving.
that's cool.
Anyway, let's talk about something related to the episode here. Just tell me about your journey coming from the US. What brought that about?
Right. So coming from Germany to the United States. So born and raised in Germany to a German mother and a U.S. serviceman who was stationed in Germany via the U.S. Army. So they met early 80s, how things go. Eventually, when his service was over, they got divorced and whatnot. And I stayed behind in Germany. But the one great thing he did for me is he gave me dual citizenship. So he made sure that I was set up with a social security card and American passport, just in case, if I ever wanted to venture out and find my way out west and live my American dream. So as any young kid would do, raised in the 90s, watched a lot of television, a lot of American lifestyle movies, Little Giants, Sandlot Kids, that sort of thing. It increased my appetite for going to the United States. There was just one problem. I had to go through the German school system, go through high school, like I just said, at the nunnery, and then go through trade school. So I did trade school instead of traditional college in Germany. But once I finished my apprenticeship, I was free and ready to go whatever I wanted to do. So it was around the age of 22 where I set my mom, told her, hey, I bought a ticket to the United States and I'm going to move there. And she really in disbelief, first of all, she's like, why do you want to go to the United States? And I told her a little bit about my dream that I really wanted to forge my own path and give it a try over there. And she said, okay, just give it a shot. It was kind of like when, in the United States, when people graduate from high school or from college, they take a leap year and they go to Europe to travel Europe by backpack. It was kind of like the same idea of like very low pressure, really nothing to lose. I had 2 suitcases when I hopped on the airplane and arrived in Tampa, Florida in 2005. And 20 years later, I'm still here kicking it and building a family and a career in the land of the free. So it worked out.
That's cool. That's awesome. I just read this book called Die with Zero, and it's about
Mm.
like managing your personal finances to get like the most out of life now instead of like for like your retirement. And they just talked about like the importance of like just going and traveling and investing in those memories and stuff. So it sounds like you checked that box.
Yeah, while you can, right? I mean, like still fresh and ready to go and able to have the energy to experience all those things. Then when you're in your 70s, it's going to be really hard to travel. So might as well, if you can, do it now and then continuously do it. So I love traveling, always enjoyed it. Love traveling different states in the United States, especially through conferences when I go on the conference circus with Staymates, for example. I'm going to be in Virginia Beach in a couple of weeks. Never been there before, so it's a great way to experience different areas within the United States. Because in Germany, if you drive 4 hours west, you're in France. And if you like drive 4 hours north, you're in Tennessee. It's kind of like the same thing. Every state is kind of like a different country, different culture. So as somebody from the outside, I still appreciate that. Like when I went to Albuquerque last year, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is so different than what it is like in Georgia. I mean, it's the United States, but it's different states, but still the same country. But culturally, it's so diverse, like a different culture in Europe. I mean, the good thing is we all speak the same language here, which makes it easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was more for you, more just like a grab life by the horns
Hmm.
kind of thing, coming and seeing what the US is about. For people that maybe didn't listen to the previous episode, tell us about, you had a whole football career and how that played into the story.
Right. So I played football in Germany relatively well. That I even once was invited to try out for the German national American football team. They have like a national football team, like we have a national soccer team. So I tried out there. Didn't make the team, which is okay. I was 18 years old, but I went to the United States and I thought, hey, maybe I can play college football here. Went over here with my German transcripts, which obviously needed to be translated and all that. I would have needed to have the proper grades to get into a school like the University of South Florida that's in Tampa. Went to see the assistant athletic director. He told me, hey, your grades aren't up to par. You probably have to go through junior college, go through community college first, which I planned on doing, but then reality hit. You have first time out of the house, you have bills, you have rent, you have to pay for food, and all of a sudden you're like a $10 an hour job, and you're like, I gotta get to work. I can't go to school right now, so just gotta stay above water and survive. So that's what I did. Put the football dreams on hold, and eventually never stepped another foot on the field, which I always thought I would do one more time, but now I'm in my 40s and it's not going to happen again.
Yeah. It's tackle football, right?
Oh,
In
yeah,
Germany.
yeah. Full on contact. I mean, the kind of thing where you walk away bruised and get the wind knocked out of you and that sort of thing. So
Yeah, that's crazy. I couldn't do it. I would quit after one hit. Taking one hit.
biggest thrill of my life, I'll tell you that. Biggest thrill. I played quarterback. At first I played wide receiver, and then after 2 years I played quarterback. But when you have that ball in your hands, it's like you get this primal survival instinct going, because you're like, I have a target on my back. Everybody's going to come after me. And you never know what's going to happen in this violent sport, right? You could walk away paralyzed. You see it all the time. Like, it's fun. It's a good game when you know how to maneuver your body, but you really never know if you're going to walk out of it. Like, there could be some freak accident and that's the end of it. So you always have that in the back of your head. But overall, really thrilling. So I wish my wife would allow me to have our son play football, but that's not in the cards right now.
Hey, do you have a B-roll library that you're excited about? Do you want one? Because if content repurposing is something that you kind of geek out about, this is especially for you. And I want to tell you about my friends Jay and Tara at Walsh College, who brought a dying content strategy back to life just from a simple 2-day shoot with Unveiled that resulted in a massive B-roll library for them. Here they are.
So in early 22, we had a big leadership change across almost all departments. The direction of the college started to become more clear. Once we had that real clarity of who we are as Walsh College, the content creation of everything else became much easier to do. And the commercial ended up being the exciting piece that we could tie everybody into in all departments and get everybody excited about what was to come. So we did a commercial in 2018, and then we didn't do one again until 2022. And in that time, we had exhausted every asset from all of it. We were really using a lot of stock image, a lot of things that were just very non-authentic. So the engagement on everything was low. The numbers in our enrollment was going right down with it. When John and I first talked, he was talking about this subscription base that he had, which I thought was really cool. It's a really unique idea to be able to make sure you have content ongoing. I knew it wasn't in the budget for us, so we decided to do a one-off. So what we did was we tacked on one commercial and 2 student slash alumni interviews. When we took the B-roll from all sides. So we took the B-roll from the commercial day, we took the B-roll from the student day. I've now gotten a year's worth of content. And really it's gonna stretch even further because I still have stuff I haven't even used because of the amount of things that we were able to do inside of a 2-day shoot.
There's so much footage that you get back. It's almost shocking how much additional there is for you to work with, which is why we've been able to build out entirely new videos using clips that no one has seen before, or take screenshots from it and without repeating it. It's been a huge transformation in the way that we can market and the way that I can design.
We're seeing an increased traffic flow into the website. We're seeing alumni coming back and thanking us for the directions that we're going. I think a lot of that has to do with a lot of the efforts that we're doing, but none of that happens without the excitement that comes from getting the name out there and getting people to understand that Walsh is changing. And we're changing into a direction that's exciting for not only our future students, but our existing students and our alumni as well.
So whether we're working together on a commercial campaign like we did for Walsh or an annual storytelling subscription, you get to keep all the B-roll and raw interview footage at no additional cost. And that alone could be super transformative to your ability to create ongoing content with limited resources. So book a call with me to chat further at unveiled.tv. Unveiled is spelled UNVEILD. All right, let's get back to the show. So as you acclimated here, though, what challenges did you face culturally that might not be obvious to the casual observer?
Yeah, so German culture and the way we approach things is very, very direct. Like if you say something, you do it. And I recognize that the way of doing things is a little bit more indirect, an indirect style. So for example, when you're trying to make friends and people say, hey, we should hang out sometime, you're like, yeah, let's hang out. Let's set a date and let's do that. But it's really more of a customary nicety instead. Of course, there are times where like, yeah, you really hit it off with somebody, you're going to hang out. But it's not like, if you meet somebody once and they're like, hey, we should hang out sometimes. And you say yes, and that's never going to happen. And you're like, wait a minute, this person just said they wanted to hang out. Why aren't they hanging out? I don't understand. So it took a while for me to realize that it's more of a casual conversation thing to be nice. But like half the time it's not really what they mean. They're just trying to make small talk. And that's the other thing. Small talk was one of those things as well. Especially when I came over here, I was an introvert. I kind of got out of my shell, but it's the same thing. Like small talk was never anything for me. Every time I opened my mouth, it had a purpose and a goal. So, doing the, how are things going with your family, that sort of thing. And your expected response is good and you move on. You don't want to go into detail, especially when you just meet somebody. But again, in Germany, it's like, hey, if somebody asks you a serious question, like, how are you? You usually answer with a serious response, like, hey, if I'm not feeling so hot, I'll let you know. But I also learned that is not the way you should go about it in this particular instance in this country. So, and that's fine, And the other thing was navigating healthcare. Oh my gosh. Like in Germany, it was all free when you went to the doctor, and here you get slapped with a $500 bill. It's like, oh my God, I did not know that I'm going to, work my way into bankruptcy if I don't pay these bills off. And it also helped me understand that or realize that sometimes if you have a little bit of an ache, you better pop a aspirin and not go to the doctor to save that money. But it's not advisable, obviously. If you have a serious condition, you probably should see a doctor and get the proper health care.
You should. And God forbid you're playing football and got
that's right.
tackled hard enough that you had to get airlifted, because I heard that it's like $40,000 or something like that for one ride to the hospital.
Yeah, I just recently saw a Facebook post my wife sent me about a child who was riding his scooter and they didn't wear their helmet and they fell and then they had to be airlifted to the hospital. Like, that's going to set you back a week or two in your budgeting. And the other thing, one more thing here, public transportation is the norm in Germany. Everybody's riding the bus regardless of social standings. And here, having a car is the norm, especially if you live in the suburbs like I do in North Atlanta area. So, and as you've seen recently in the news, it's not exactly safe either. When you see the Ukrainian lady that was stabbed in North Carolina, so it's another thing. It's not always the safest way to commute. So, also something that I wasn't accustomed to when I moved over here.
Yeah, it's tough. It's not always the safest, best place to be. But talk about the isolation. Did you feel any like sort of isolation when you came here? Just like trying to fit in, trying to find belonging?
Oh yeah, loneliness is a big deal for people moving to a new country because you don't have the support base. If you're the only one moving over here, you have nobody. So, Zoom calls. It wasn't Zoom back then. It was like, what was it called?
Skype.
Skype, exactly. So we did the Skype calls, but after that, you're basically just on your own making it work. So what I always did was I tried to stay busy. So every hour of the day was basically planned out, whether it was reading, whether it was going to the gym, whether it was going to the grocery store, whether it was playing soccer at a team, that sort of thing, right? The less time you have on your own, the easier it is to get by. So because if you're sitting in your apartment by yourself, you start drifting and you start getting that homesickness and feel that isolation, and maybe even depression may set in when you have that, So we're a species that seek connection. So yeah, especially if you're new in a country and you're very insecure about the command of the language. Like when I moved over here, my English was not good at all. I learned English in high school, but it's basically the way you learn Spanish in high school here. You'll be able to squeak by and pass the grade, but if somebody would throw you in the middle of Barcelona and tell you you get a job and get by, it's a whole different story,
Yeah.
because you constantly keep questioning yourself, especially in a professional environment. What I said, is the sentence structure correct? Is it a way that makes me look like a professional, or does it make me look like somebody who didn't pass elementary school, the way you talk, right? Especially with me,
Right.
my accent, like people always tell me, oh, you don't have a really thick German accent. So what if I try to tell you something and it comes out grammatically completely incorrect? What is the first thing you think about? Like, what's wrong with this person, right? Is he not all there?
Yeah, I had never thought about that. Like you get a pass when you have an accent because it's like
That's
accent
right.
plus grammatically incorrect equals, okay, this isn't their first language. But I think that like colleges need to be more aware too of, and the point of this episode is really, I think, more about retention, because I think,
Hmm.
colleges do a lot of work, to attract international students, but there's not a lot of content that I see created that's focused on retention, period, let alone for international students. So if colleges aren't focusing on retention at all, I think some of the most likely students to bounce are international students.
Right.
So, one of the reasons why I got you on this podcast was you had posted something on LinkedIn about a young quarterback who was asked was it a quarterback?
Yeah, it was a kicker, a punter from the University of Nebraska, but he was from Australia.
Okay. And he was asked in a press conference if he was missing his family at
That's
home,
right.
and he just started bursting into tears. And you had posted about, just kind of relating to that feeling of homesickness. And I saw that and I was like, man, I totally relate to that too. And I didn't even go very far. So like
Hmm.
my first semester of college, I moved from Detroit to Baltimore, and just some small things that were such a culture shock to me were like played a big role in me going back to Detroit after one
Hmm.
semester. So like,
Yeah.
I mean, number one, it's like transportation was terrible there. I didn't have a car, and the
Yeah.
only form of transportation by the campus was the light rail, which only kind of went like, some places. So you had to like, to get groceries, you had to do a whole process, like get on the light rail, walk a long time down to the grocery store, get only as much as you can carry in your hands because you got to
Mhm.
get back on the light rail. And that was tough. And just like new friends, like new teachers. It's my first foray into college. So the professors, the teachers were a lot harder on us
Mhm.
than I was used to. And so like kind of all of that, also just navigating life on your own and all that stuff. So I feel like as a freshman, to begin with, you're just plopped into this new environment, and you're away from your parents, and there's all these new things that you're trying to figure out. But then as an international student, you have these whole other layers of things going on. And for me, I was very homesick. I had very close friends at home. And so that was one of the things that I was like really struggling with, was like feeling like I was missing out. I was like hearing about my friends doing all these cool things together back home, and I was missing out. And, at the time too, my parents' divorce was finalized in that 3 months that I was in Baltimore. So there's just just things at home were going on. And eventually I just felt like I was depressed. It was my first time I had ever like really experienced what depression is like. And I moved back home, and on the one hand, I don't regret it because if I had stayed out there, I probably wouldn't have my wife and my kids, would have completely other relationships. So my life now is, a result of that decision. But on the other hand, I'm like, man, I just feel like I could have stuck it out and like had more of an adventure, away from home in my college years, to be in a different state, a different climate, and new friends and stuff like that. But I kind of like retreated to safety in some way. Did you feel that pull at all to head back?
Yeah, first of all, I commend you for being transparent like that and vulnerable. And every time you have that feeling, I would look at your wife and your kids, and you compare it, and you're like, I would not have this if I wouldn't have gone back. So best decision you've ever made was to go back and find your path in Detroit and have your wife and have your kids and have your family. So every time you get that feeling of like, oh, did I miss out on something? No, man, you got the best thing you could have possibly gotten. So that's the first thing. And yes, the other thing you said, which, walking to the grocery store, getting your groceries, but only as much as you can carry. It's all external stuff. But the thing that really drives people back is the internal struggle. I like what Theo Von said on his podcast. The thing about being alone, it's not that you feel you don't have anybody, it's that you feel that nobody has you. Like nobody has your back when you're away, right? Because you have nobody there. Like who are you going to go to? Like when you struggle. I remember one time I was in my apartment and I was super sick. Like usually I don't get sick, but I was sick. I was like so sick and I couldn't get out of bed, man. And I was like, holy cow, I have nobody to call. I was freezing. So I was dragging myself out of bed, got in the car, barely made it to the grocery store to get myself a blanket to go back to the apartment so I would feel warm. It's that sort of stuff. It's like if you're healthy and everything is good, that's one thing. It's still hard. But if you get something like a sickness and you're like, oh my God, like there's nobody there. Nobody can make me soup. Nobody can take me or give me a sweater, or nobody can give me a blanket. Like I was just cold. I didn't have a proper blanket. I just had a sheet that I slept on with. So I still remember dragging myself into Target, finding one of these fuzzy blankets, dragging myself back to the register, and just to get home to have some warmth and to make it through those 2 days where I was not feeling well. So that's one of those things you're like, oh my gosh, like you don't think about that, right? Because you're just a person when you show up on campus. Like, okay, cool, they're in class. Oh, they're not there. Maybe they have a cold. They got to get over it. But, who's there to take care of them? That's one of those things. But back to your question, did I ever feel like going back? Yes, I did. So after 7 years in the United States, I felt like, you know what, I've been here for 7 years. I've experienced the culture. I've experienced everything that I thought I would experience here. And the last year or two, all I lived for was basically I worked 50 weeks and then I lived 42 weeks for Christmas break where I could go to Germany. And then I was talking to my brother too. I was like, well, damn, man, it's the last day of my German trip. So I'm just going to work for the next 50 weeks. The only thing I look forward to is next Christmas, so I can go back to Germany to visit you all. So that was that, and I was like, that's no way to live. Like, this is crazy. What am I living for 2 weeks? It's like when people are living for the weekend, when they're in a dead-end job that they don't love, they work 5 days a week, they're miserable, and they're living for the weekend to live it up. And then Sunday night, Sunday scaries where they say, oh, Sunday evening comes around and you're like, oh my gosh, dreading to go to work. Man, if you have the Sunday scaries, you wake up on Sunday and you're like, dang it, man, it's the last day and I got to go back to work tomorrow. So all day Sunday, you're already dreading to go to work. So you got one day Saturday, you got Friday night and you got Saturday where you're happy. But yeah, so I thought about going back. And then literally I sold all my stuff. I was like, okay, I'm going to sell all my stuff inside. I gave stuff away. I had my car almost ready to ship back to Germany. And then I meet this girl named Kara Parton, who turns out to be the best thing that ever happened to me, who then turned into my wife and the mother of my children 3 months before I was ready to go back to Germany. Here's another thing, right? Where you always say, hey, what would have happened if I would have stayed in college wherever you were? Was it South Carolina or where was it?
Baltimore.
Baltimore, yeah, right. So I'm always like, what would have happened if I would have gone back to Germany after 7 years as this international bachelor? You know, I had all this life experience in the United States. It's a really big deal. It's exotic to people in Germany, right? This experience of international lifestyle. But then I'm like, what are you talking about, man? You got the woman of your dreams, and you got two beautiful children. You got a great career. You got a degree from the University of Florida, which you would have never gotten if you wouldn't have come across that lady. So things work out the way they're supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And so you came to the States, you intended to go to college, ended up getting a job, but then later as an
Mhm.
adult, and that's what
That's
we
right.
had you on the podcast earlier about, was talking about marketing to adult students, because it wasn't, till like I think 7 or 8 years later that you actually did enter college. And so what prompted that?
That's right. So, like I said, when I came from Germany, I had to make ends meet. I worked odd jobs. First, I worked at a trucking company. Then I worked at a mailroom delivering mail and learning the language by reading emails that I received from colleagues. And then I finally found my way into a law firm, entry-level legal assistant job, and worked my way there up to paralegal through 8 years. But I hit a career ceiling. You know, I didn't have a American degree, and I thought I wanted to advance, but really everything jobs that I was looking for, they required a college degree. So also during that time, I was dating my wife. We got engaged, and we were talking about family. And I thought, well, the salary that I make now, they're not going to make ends meet to support a family. So I walked into Hillsborough Community College in Tampa, Florida, looking at the different degrees, and I walked right back out. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to take me 8 years because I'm working full time and I got to go part time to school. So I walked right back out and I said, hey, it's like, it's not going to happen. It's going to take too long. And then a friend of mine came to me and asked me how the college search went. And I told him, hey, it's going to be too long. I'm going to be almost 40 by the time I'm going to graduate. And they were like, well, you're going to be 40 regardless. Might as well be 40 with a degree. So I said, okay, point taken. So I walked back into the admissions office, and I was about to walk back out again. And I saw this poster that said, invest in the one thing that will return you 100% of your investment yourself. And that was kind of like the trigger. Like, I need to just invest in this, because the other thing was I was always money conscious. I was like, how am I going to afford going to college? I don't want to get into debt. But then I saw that poster about it being an investment, and it was the best investment of my life that I've did. So I went to Hillsborough Community College, graduated there, applied myself, graduated with honors, which opened all the doors for the state schools in the state of Florida. And I looked around at the best value and the best prestige, and the University of Florida came across my desk, one of the mail pieces that said, the Gator Nation is everywhere, that I could earn my degree from the University of Florida, staying in Tampa and working as an adult. And there was a no-brainer. I applied to UF and got in and graduated a couple of years later with my son in the stands watching me walk the stage. So that was a good feeling. Yeah.
So print advertising really
Yeah.
heavy hitter with you.
It
Posters.
did. Print advertisement was the one that got me into HCC. A mail piece from the University of Florida. It was a magnet with a gator that said, the Gator Nation is everywhere. I have it up there on my cardboard. I'm just not going to pull it off now. But
You're like
it says,
the example of like every, Gen
yeah,
X marketing team is like, oh, this slogan's going to get so many people in the door. And it never
yeah,
does, because it's not about the slogan. But in your case, like
it was. It
you're
was.
you're the quote unquote poster child, no pun intended.
That's right.
For
When they present the ROI discussion to their board, they have a quote of me and a picture next to it. Hey, this guy said it on 5 different podcasts that this made him move to UF. So yeah,
he's our ideal customer profile right here.
yeah. Hit me up, UF, anytime you need an interview. So
That's awesome. So as a marketer in 2025, now we have all this information, we have all this content at our fingertips. What do you feel like? Because I know that you see a lot of college marketing stuff. How would you advise colleges in the US on a content strategy aimed at international students that's going to address some of those things that they're feeling?
yeah, definitely want to do student testimonials. That's the no-brainer answer, obviously, because people don't. You can advertise all you want, how great you are, what your stats are, what your ranking is, how many people graduated, the prestigious alumni that you have at your university. But these people, they're unreachable at times. So you want to have people that are like me, that look like me, that went through what I went through, to talk about how they achieved what I want to achieve. So how do you do that? Obviously, content marketing is key there. Long form content, Q&A, a day in the life. But I'm really leaning towards video these days, which really leans into what you do. Long form video, student testimonials. But more than that, once you have the long form video, make sure you repurpose it, because that long form video may be sitting on some page or YouTube and it just collects dust after the initial launch. So you want to go into short form videos where your audience hangs out, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts is super hot. I mean, I'm really gotten into YouTube Shorts lately, doing 60-second vertical style videos, short snippets. Get the hook in the first 3 seconds to earn yourself another 3 seconds to get them through the whole video, and just meet the people where they are. And your target audience, whether they're Gen Z or Gen Alpha, they're here on their phone doom scrolling at times, just getting hit with one short video after another. And if you appear in there, it's really going to help you a lot. And also, if they Google best bachelor's degree in finance in the United States, Google just recently came out with a little tab there that gives short form video examples, right? That show up there. So you want to make sure that you rank in that as well. And obviously, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, all these AI tools as well. And how do you rank there? You don't rank there by keyword stuffing. You rank there by answering questions that your prospective students have that addresses their pain points. And how do you address those pain points? You ask the current students, or you ask the alumni that went through the program, what did they experience when they came to the United States? Because you have somebody there that was born and raised in Saginaw, Michigan. They're not going to know what somebody from Sri Lanka is going to feel like when they consider going to Michigan to go to school, or the United States at large, right? So you want to find somebody that is their ideal client profile that went through the institution, to pick their brain on, hey, what did you feel? How did we address that, or didn't address that? How could we address that to make the next generation of students be more successful and stick around, become graduates, and eventually donors, or send their friends to our school as well?
Yeah. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here because I didn't prep you with this question. But if you were in 2005, because I love what you said about answering questions that students are asking, because that's one of my top pieces of advice as well as a video marketer is, it's one thing to say, yay, rah, rah, such and such university, we're great for all these reasons. But there's so many granular questions. And when a student is like mid to bottom funnel, they're asking more granular questions. Like even I wrote in my, what was it, a newsletter recently or LinkedIn post or something. I wrote somewhere, like when you're showing like the housing, like the on-campus housing and stuff, show like the laundry area, like what does that look like? How do you use it? Like where do you store your bike? If you have a bike, if you're bringing a bike on campus, where did that go? Just
That's
like
right.
little stuff. Anyway, my surprise question was, if you're in 2005, we have all the technology here in 2005 that we have here in 2025, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google, all the stuff. What questions are you asking about University of Florida, for instance?
I'm going to ask the money question. First of all, how much does it cost? Now, how much does it cost? And it's going to tell me it's $125 per credit hour. And I'm like, is a credit hour a class? I don't even know how much credits do I need what's a credit hour, first of all? How much credits do I need to complete a class? How much credit hours do I need to get my piece of paper, the reason why I'm going there? All right, that's the first questions you got to answer. Then I get this answer, and I say, okay, it's 3 credit hours per class usually. So, okay, it's 125 times 3. That's $375. It's going to set me back $375 per semester. I'm going part-time. I got about $750 per semester that I have to set aside just for the class. Then you get these hidden fees. How much is the freaking book going to cost? That's another $100. That sounds like a waste of money. How am I going to get this
discount book is $100?
Right. The book I'm probably not going to read it at all. I'm just having it just in case.
They're like, you can pay $100 to go dumpster diving for your book.
That's right. So, obviously I did my research. So I always rented my books. So I came across like whatever the sites were off campus. I never bought them at the bookstore at full price. I always went got a rental, and these books, they fell apart, but I didn't care. I just needed a book. just an insurance policy in case there's something that I need to pull from. But then I'm like, okay, I got the 375 per credit hour. How much does it take me to get an AA? First of all, 60 credit hours. That's 22,500. Now I got sticker shock. I'm like, there's no way I can pay that. And I'm not going to go into debt for a degree where I have to pay triple that at the end of the day when I finally pay off my student loan in 20 years. So this is what I've recently found out, that there is a lot of discounts for colleges and universities and scholarships, which when I come from Germany, the price is what it is, right? Like if it says $125, it's $125. Like there's no ifs and buts about it. That's the other thing when you come to the United States, you see a sandwich that costs $8.99. You pull your $8 out of 99 cents and then they slap on the tax, which you didn't think, you didn't know that was happening. Because if you see it in Germany, you see this, the price is the price on the menu. But here it's the price on the menu plus the tax you have to pay. You don't see that coming when you first come here. So definitely address the money question, give them the opportunities to discount that. Like, hey, here's a discount for this. If you're this and that, you qualify for scholarships. Here's how you go about scholarship. It's one thing to have them sitting there and say, hey, here's a scholarship. But if you've never written a paper or whatever you have to fill out to qualify for the scholarship, how are you going to do that? So you may want to give some resources there of people that earned scholarships in the past to help you with that. Granted, you said 2005, we have the technology we have today. I would probably go to ChatGPT and have them help me with writing those requests to get the most discounts that I can possibly get.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I think that's in terms of video, if I'm going to learn how to do something, I want to watch a video and follow along with the video.
That's
right.
Me
personally, I don't want to read a blog because I feel like it's reading like an instruction manual.
That's right.
So let's just assume everyone's like me and they prefer a video. That's great stuff for the in-house video team to do. Let's make a video on transparent pricing. Like put ourselves in the shoes of an international student. What are they wondering? What isn't going to make sense to them? What can we clarify for them? Who do we get on camera to help, talk through that? How do they go through the application process? How do they get, scholarships? Like, what are the actual costs that come up? Really give people a really down to earth sense of like how much this is going to cost. And I think video is just a great way for that. And there's a lot, it's helpful, I think, to have these walkthrough videos, and you can do these through Loom. Just captures your screen and you just talk as you're doing it. So I consulted with one university about doing a Loom tutorial on how to fill out the FAFSA.
Yeah.
And so we were kind of talking about maybe doing that and kind of walking through all the steps and we're actually applying in real time, because at the time there was all these changes to FAFSA and delays and all this stuff. This was a year or two ago. But yeah, those are just simple things that would be so helpful. I think we overcomplicate video sometimes, where we feel like we have to have this big production. I'm just like, I don't need a big production. Just show me how to do the thing.
Right. Yeah, I do that all the time. When an oil change light comes on, and I know I just recently changed my oil, I want to know, how do I turn off that oil change required light in my car? I'm not going to read some instruction. I'm going to go in a YouTube video or a YouTube short for 30 seconds and I figure it out that way.
Yeah, so much learning on YouTube. And I think that we colleges need to really capitalize that, because that is where people go to learn things. So it's like, what do you need to learn about college that's going to reduce friction for them in applying and eventually enrolling and staying? What things might they try to learn? Like, how do I get to this building? Or I don't know that you would do like a GPS video or something of the campus, but what are the questions that people are asking even after they've, showed up?
That's right. Or even before that, you want to address the fear too, right? Because with the current administration, there's some concern about education and international students even getting into the country. I get that all the time from my mom when she calls me. As like a lot of anti-Trump rhetoric in the German news and horror stories of people are showing up at customs in the United States just to be turned away and sent back home because some of their visa documents or their documents weren't accepted. So maybe addressing that as well, that fear, to have somebody show, hey, this is what you got to do to have a proper student visa, because if your documents are in order, you shouldn't have a problem getting into the country. but you have to
Yeah.
address that fear as well and show them how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we go, I wanted to address, because one of the things you said earlier was just, about language and, not wanting to feel like you were undereducated or something like that. And I was thinking about this after you and I had our pre-interview call a few weeks ago, that I imagine like underneath all the fear, like if you were to drill down to what the fear is, for a lot of students, anyone in a new environment, but especially international students, it's like the fear of looking stupid.
Hmm.
And that fear is so strong. And like when I pay attention to the times when I get comfortable in my life, it's almost always because I'm afraid to look stupid. Like if I get something wrong, if I get like the wrong food or something doesn't taste good, I'm not the person that will like call the waiter over and like fix it. I'm just like, I'll just, not that that's necessarily making me look stupid, but I don't want them to not like me.
Right, right.
So what were some things that like, maybe dumb questions that you had that you might have thought were dumb at the time when you first came here that international students might be thinking? Because one of the ideas I had was like, man, it'd be great if school would do like these man on the street videos, just a series, and just knock them out and just go up to students and be like, hey, what's a dumb question that you had on day one, and what's the answer to that question? It's like normalizing asking dumb questions. Or what is that for you? What was that for you back in 2005?
Yeah, for me, it was for when it comes to school, particularly, what's a semester like? Because in Germany, especially when you go to high school, you don't have the semesters, you have one entire year. So you have the subject for the entire year. You start in September, you end in July, and you have this massive exam at the end that basically makes or breaks your grade. Whether you pass, you go through to the next one. If you fail that, you just have to redo it, right? And there's a lot of pressure on here. But in the United States, per semester is only 3 months, and you have multiple exams and quizzes and all that stuff to get you to, if you fail one, to help you get out of that again and overcome it and pass the class eventually. So just asking like, hey, what does a semester look like? What does a grading structure look like if you don't understand it? Because you think you go into school and you should know all the answers. You have to have it all together. Now that you finally made it to higher education, you're no longer a high school student who ask all these silly questions. You should have it figured out. Or if you have a question, you should know where to go to get it figured out, right? So not being afraid to ask. There's no such thing as a dumb question as a freshman, especially going to a new environment that you've never been in. Getting rid of that fear that somebody makes you or that you feel like you look stupid, and then giving the resources plainly. If somebody's afraid to ask these questions, have the frequently asked questions out there because somebody would have asked for it, and make them available on your website, make them available on poster boards throughout the campus and on social media, and address them through short form videos, I would say.
Yeah, that's great. I was talking to a marketing director at a different college a couple years ago, and she was telling me of this user generated video series that they did, like their students did for TikTok. And it was the students just coming up with these ideas and filming them and letting them loose. And they said the most popular series was how to do laundry. And
Mm.
I thought that was like really eye opening, because like I've done my own laundry since
Hmm.
since like wide leg jeans came out, because I didn't want my mom to like shrink my wide leg jeans. They had to be as baggy as possible. She's like, you're doing your own laundry then. So I've been doing it
Yep,
ever since I was like 11. But like
that is
for normal people, it's like it is a process. Or even like how to get gas.
that's
How do you
right.
fill up your gas tank if you're coming to the States and you're coming from a place that you've never had to have a car.
Right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. In other places, you pay after you get your gas. So you get your gas in Germany, you get your gas first, then you walk into the little shop and you pay. Not here, you pay here first. And I remember that, like last time I was in Germany, I walked into the gas station, I gave them guy $20, and he was looking at me like, where did you get your gas? I was like, oh, wait a minute. I have to get gas first, then I pay. So it's that thing. Or when I first moved here, I didn't know how to cook because I lived at home all the time. So I didn't know how to cook a chicken breast. So it was crunchy on the outside and raw on the inside. And I thought, I'm going to have to eat tuna wraps for the rest of my life.
Chicken breast is hard though. I mean,
It's
you got to
hard.
give yourself some credit. It's one of the hardest meats to cook. It is not
It
very
is.
forgiving.
Yes.
Well, cool, man. Hey, it's been super great chatting with you. Thanks for sharing your experience, and, for our listeners, really take into consideration, what are these like emotional needs, these fears that your students are having, especially international students that are coming to a new country for the first time, new culture, new stage of life. Maybe they're away from their parents for the first time, all these new things. And so all of a sudden, when they come on your campus, retention is a very worthwhile content strategy to have. And I haven't seen a whole lot of that in the schools that we've worked with on video, a focus on retention. It focuses usually more like top of funnel, getting students to apply, which is great, but we should be thinking both. But anyway, Chris, where can people connect with you at?
Easiest way to find me is on LinkedIn. Just type in Chris Rapozo, Chris Rapozo Stamats, for example, and I should show up there. No problem. Or the Education Marketing Leader podcast. So that's the easiest way to find me. People can also contact me via email at chris.rapozo@stamats.com. That's chris.rapozo@stamats.com.
Awesome. What's the next book that you guys are featuring in your book club?
Gary Dane's How to Be a Small College, November 4th, if anybody wants to join. And after that, we are going to read Go Giver by Bob Burg and John David Mann. It's about giving. It's a little story about the powerful business ideas of giving first and then receiving. So that's something we're going to read right before the holidays. So it's going to be great.
That's awesome, man. I love that you're doing the book club. I've been following and I'm like, man, I eventually want to join one of those. I'm just like, I have like no time.
Yeah, it's
so
hard.
I was like, I don't have time for another book outside of the book that I'm currently reading already. So
Yeah.
it's enough to like steal any reading time to begin with. But man, it's such a cool thing that you're doing. I think it's really a unique way to bring, higher ed folks together around learning and are all learning the same thing and kind of pushing the industry forward. So I just want to commend you on that. It's a great, brilliant idea.
Appreciate it, man. It's a good time every month. So really appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here, man. Talk soon.
You bet. Thank you. Bye.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. 3 things I want to invite you to before you go. Number 1, if you want to know what's working right now in higher ed video, like what videos are getting tons of views, likes, comments, all that, you can get ungated access to our report, aptly named What's Working in Higher Ed Video, a comprehensive guide for higher ed Marcom leaders and content creators. So check it out at unveiled.tv/higheredvideo, and you might want to bookmark it because it's designed to be a resource for you that you can keep referring back to for inspiration. Number 2, reminder to sign up for my free newsletter all about content creation and strategy at unveiled.tv/newsletter. And number 3, follow me on LinkedIn. If you're searching for me, my name is John Azzoni. It's spelled Johnazoni. I'm on there all day, every day, for better or for worse, posting regular content and engaging with folks like you. So I'd love to connect with you on there. And with that, we'll catch you on the next episode of the Higher Ed Storytelling University podcast. And as always, I am cheering you on. Okay, bye.